is the theme to the show. The show is all about you, not you, but you and your stories. Because everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Brought to you by JeffSeltzer.com.
Hello and welcome to Everybody Has a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I am your host, Jeff Seltzer, and this is episode 65 of my own personal midlife crisis. Thanks again for joining. As you guys know or probably know at this point, I've kind of walked away from the weekly episodes, going to the monthly at least, I guess you could say. I'll probably have maybe every other week, whatever, but it was a lot. So definitely reducing the amount of content that I'm putting out at this point. A couple of things I wanted to talk about before introducing my guest from this week. And this guest is pretty awesome. The fact that I've known her now for over 9 years. I'm going to ask her what day we met. She won't remember, even though I've told her multiple times. We'll tell that story as well, but we'll get into that when she joins the show. A couple of things. So first of all, back in December, I saw the movie The Housemaid in theaters. Definitely surprised me. It was based on a book, Sydney Sweeney, a few other notable actors as well. Surprisingly, it was like my favorite movie of last year. Really well done. Great twists, surprises. Did really well in theaters. If you didn't see it then, it'll be on Stars starting on April 1st. So this episode will probably drop on March 30th, 31st, something like that. So this week, if you have Stars, you can see it, or you can obviously buy it on iTunes, I guess, and watch it via Apple Movies. Next thing I wanted to talk about, and this is probably only going to impact about 1% of you. So if you have no interest in this or doesn't apply to you, fast forward about a minute and a half or whatever. I'll fly through this as quickly as I can. I promise it'll be interesting for those of you that it does relate to. So many people that I know of and that I'm friends with do get company stock via work. So now that it's tax time, and obviously taxes are due on April 15th, a lot of people have to claim taxes on the company stock that vests, so RSU, stuff like that. Weirdly, what I'll say is this: the tax form that comes, the 1099 from the brokerage account, generally shows just the proceeds from the stock sale. So let's say you vested $30,000 in stock. It'll show if you sold the stock that you only got 30, that you got 30 grand, but there's no cost basis. So if you take it as is, it'll look like you've got 30 grand worth of income that you got to file your taxes with. I met with a few people this week that weren't aware that you have to actually take the transaction sheets or some supplemental forms that are there, and that will give you the cost basis. So instead of maybe $30,000 worth of additional income that you get taxed on, it might only be a few $100, or you might have actually lost money if you sold it at a loss. So things to keep in mind. I'm not going to say who, but somebody might have paid a lot more in taxes than they were supposed to over the last few years. Definitely a big learning for that person. So again, if this impacts you, fantastic. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If it doesn't impact you, then, well, hope you learned something. And that's it for now. With that said, I did want to quickly walk through the plugs for the week. So as always, keep in mind, you can find the show's Instagram site at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can find the show on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. If you want to email the show directly, you can email the show at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. This show is available on all podcast platforms, video on Spotify and YouTube, audio everywhere else. That would be like Apple, Pandora, iHeartRadio. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find this one. If you find a podcast platform that I'm not on, let me know, and I'll do everything I can to have it added. With that said, I did want to introduce my guest for this week, Alaina Hucke. Alaina, how are you today?
I'm great, Jeff. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for asking. So first of all, for those of you that don't know, I've known Alaina now for just over 9 years. We met back in January of 2017. Quick funny story about that. We actually met as she interviewed me for a job at the time. It was her, another good friend of mine, Scott, and somebody else that I currently work with as well, in a small, maybe a bigger conference room in the basement of the building that we both eventually worked at the time. So very weird, or I think it's kind of, novel that 9 years later we're still in touch. So Alaina, first of all, thank you for recommending me to get hired for that job, because that's what brought us together here. And secondly, again, it's always a pleasure to see you. So thank you, Alaina.
Okay. Thank you for having me. This is my first podcast, so appreciate you having me on. And in that same vein, so recently I left the organization that we both worked for. And I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, I get this huge box in the mail from the company. And I was like, what is this? What could this be? And I open it and I was like, somebody had cleared out the contents of my locker and my drawer because we get those assigned to us at the office. And it wasn't my intention to leave there without cleaning it out or anything, but I had no idea that someone was going to do it for me. And I'm going through the stuff, and they put a card in there, and it was really, really nice and sweet. So it was good to get that. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm just going to throw all this stuff out. Like, if I didn't need it, I had not been to my locker for 2.5 years. There was nothing in there. I mean, I ended up going through it, and you want to bet I found that folder, Jeff, of my interview with you. So if you were going to quiz me on the date that we had the interview, it was January 9th.
That's right.
2017
Yes.
at 2 p.m. And it was scheduled for 1 hour.
That sounds about right.
I
I'm sure there was
my notes here and everything.
Yes.
It's
So I mean, I got hired, so I assume there are probably more positives than negatives. From a negative perspective, what was it? This guy's wearing his bar mitzvah suit. Maybe he smiles too much. A little sweaty.
I was really disappointed because at the very back, there's like 20 pages in it, and the very back is like the evaluation sheet, and nothing was filled out.
Ooh.
So I was really disappointed to see like no comments on that. But I did have a lot of notes written on the resume, and I had a bunch of questions, and it seemed like you answered them all very well and exceeded expectations, obviously. So.
Well,
I thought that was really funny, but I have the file. Now I will throw that away after this. I will recycle all the paper in it.
Of course. I appreciate that. And I'm sure I'll talk to Scott as well and ask for his memories. And I'm sure he's been at 5 jobs since then. So I'm sure he has absolutely none of this kept up still.
I mean, who keeps paper that long? Nobody even prints stuff anymore. It's ridiculous.
No,
anyway.
it's crazy, right? Cool. So with that said, again, Alaina, thank you for joining. As we discussed, I've known you for almost a decade at this point, which is insane. Do you want to give a little background on who is Alaina Hucke?
Sure. Formerly Alaina Smith, us women got to change our last names, but I come to you today by way of Missouri. So my family is still all in Missouri, from Southeast Missouri. I moved when I got out of college. I moved to Texas. I knew there was much more out there than just Missouri, and I got really lucky. My aunt and uncle moved to Austin, so whether they liked it or not, I followed them right down there. And I was in Austin for about 6 months, and then was applying for my first quote unquote real job. And I was doing it through the classifieds in the newspaper, sending out my resume. And quite honestly, I'd even forgotten that I, wrote this place and applied for a job, and they called me later and asked me to move to Dallas. So I moved there, and I really wanted to get in with a company at the ground level. I wanted to be a sales rep at a company, and I wanted to just kind of move my way up and work my way up and just know from the bottom up what it takes to run a company. And so I was actually able to do that with this company. So I went from Texas to Tennessee, all with the same company. I was an analyst on the business there, was in Tennessee for a couple of years. And then from there, they asked me to move to the New Jersey area. And they told me when I was moving out here, we had offices in Manhattan and we had offices in New Jersey. And they said, you might live in like Morristown or Hoboken, because those are kind of the fun places to live. And if you lived in either one of those, you could probably go to the city, or you could, go to the New Jersey office. So I chose Hoboken, and I mean, I could write a book on the culture shock that was moving from Tennessee. The rent was high. I was looking online. I was like, where are these apartment complexes with like the pools and
you got to live in the suburbs.
parking?
My first job out of college, I lived in Parsippany, Lake Hiawatha. We had exactly what we were talking about. There's tennis courts. There was a pool. I think I paid like $800 a month. I'm sure in Hoboken you paid probably at least double that.
Double. It was insane. And my first visit there, walking around being like, wait, what are those air conditioning units in the window? Like
Right.
They don't even have central AC here. And
Yes.
I have to go down in the basement, the scary basement, share the laundry. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this, but nevertheless, I knew it would be great to, again, another part of the country to see and learn about people and make connections and things like that. So I lived in Hoboken for a long time, in Jersey City for about 3 years across the two, and then was asked to move to Minneapolis. And I lived there for 2 years, which was also very amazing. I know I've heard you talk about it on the podcast before. I know you've had a guest on from that area.
Yes.
I love it up there. I like colder weather, and I thought it was fascinating that they have golf courses everywhere, but in the winter when it snows, they become cross-country skiing and
Oh, wow.
snowshoeing. And it's really cool how they just like incorporate that into their winter like things that they can do. And they have these waterfalls that will freeze over and you can go behind them. And it's just like so magical and beautiful. So if you can get to Minnesota in the winter, check it out. Like, who recommends that?
I mean, if you can get over the sub 20 degree or sub minus 20 degree weathers and have at it, go for it.
Crazy.
I at a job 15, 20 years ago, I think I visited Minneapolis like once a month. And it was probably the coldest weather I'd ever been in. And I promised myself I'd probably never go back in the winter.
Yeah.
So, different strokes for different folks, I guess, right?
It's not for everybody, but
That's
and
true.
the thing is, I'm from Missouri, and you would think I would be okay with hot weather, and I hate it.
Oh.
Like, I don't mind to sweat if I know I'm going to go to sweat, but if I'm just standing around at a picnic, I'm like, I can't deal with this. It drives me bananas.
Right.
So I like it. I like the cold weather. And then I was there for a couple years, and I had met this guy in Hoboken before I moved, and we were doing long distance in Minneapolis. So I thought, I've got to figure out if this guy's it for me or what, because I was starting to get old with all those moves. And so I moved back to New Jersey and I switched companies. And a couple years later, that's when we met. And so then I've been back in New Jersey for about 12 years. I met my husband playing kickball in Hoboken.
Nice.
So that was really fun, a really fun story. I've lived on the Mississippi River 3 times. My hometown is on the Mississippi River. So is Memphis and so is Minneapolis. And so, my family's really all still in Missouri. We go twice a year to visit for kind of a long period of time. We'll drive. And I have a daughter who's 3 years old.
Nice. And if I remember correctly, didn't you honeymoon on an African safari? Is that right?
I did.
Yes.
You probably remember because I put a piece of paper up on my monitor at work and I drew the animals and was like, I'm on safari, so if anybody walked by my desk, they would know I was not going to be around for a couple of weeks. But yeah, good memory. We sure did. It was great.
So funny you say that, because I don't remember the post-it on your monitor. I believe I first started, maybe my first week might have been when you first came back. And I believe in a team meeting, you were showing pictures of the safari. That's where my first memories, I guess, of it came from. In terms of I met you a month earlier on the interview. And then I think when I first started, you were just back from honeymoon. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I had never even heard of people going to Africa for safari, like, outside of a movie. So this was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was February of 2017. You're exactly right. Yep.
That sounds about right. Amazing. Mm-hmm. So this is your life story. So first of all, Alaina, thank you for sharing. Obviously, lots of cool stuff there. So I did want to get a little into, I've been following it on social media. We've briefly chatted about it, but in full disclosure, I know very little about it. Yeah. So I want to say it was back in, keep me honest, you're back in the fall. You started posting about, and you created something called Lightcraft Studio. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you tell everybody, and specifically me, like, what is that, and just kind of like what the origin was and how you got into it?
Yes, really good question. So Lightcraft Studio actually was just recently born, if you will. I'd actually had something like in me for a while, and I kept coming up with these like business ideas and thoughts, and I kind of like, quote unquote, write it on paper or maybe like throw it in AI or something and say like, let's start to build this out. And I'd always like get hung up on something that just made it like not quite right for me. But in November of last year, I had went away with some girlfriends. They decided to take me away for my 45th birthday because when I turned 40, it was in COVID. And they were like, let's get you away. It's time, we need to do something for your birthday. And I was just filled with so much gratitude for that thought. And I happened to just finish reading a book called The First Witch of Boston. My birthday's in November, so it's kind of like the tail end of the spooky season. And I was like, I want to make them a potion. Like, I want to make them a potion that has these ingredients in it that are really meaningful and picked with intention. And I want them to have like, kind of like me giving them a wish and just like showing them how grateful I am for them thinking of me and doing this for me. And so quite honestly, I set this table up with all this stuff and I made 4 different recipes for these different potions. And I set it up in the front of the room and they kind of all came in and they were like, what is this? And I was like, oh, I quit my job and this is my new like side hustle. They were all like, yay, good for you. That's awesome. And I was like, no, I'm just kidding. But I was like, I'm glad I have your support. And so I kind of took them through this thing. I said, everybody, I made an intention for you. And this is the recipe that I made. And I want to kind of pass this wish and this energy on to you, as I'm starting my new year, but this is something for you. So that's actually where the idea came from. And it's all rooted in me connecting with people and I love to talk to people. So I thought, how can I make this like the real experience? What would that real experience look like? And so Jeff, it's like you and I would have kind of like a chat like this. And I use an oracle card deck. So it's similar to tarot cards, but not. And we would do a card pull or two, and it would help us have this conversation about what's, kind of being, what the universe is sort of putting on you right now. We would talk through it. And then we would write an affirmation that is true to you based on what's going on here. And from there, we would pick herbs and essential oils that have the energies that match that.
Okay.
And then you would make a sea salt scrub for the shower is basically what it is.
Got it.
So every day in the shower, you would use that and you would recite your affirmation and you would get out of the shower with that intention for your day. So it's really where intention turns into ritual is what it is.
Got it. So lots to unpack here. This is obviously very interesting, I think. So based on what you're saying, I do take it that you're a fairly spiritual person, right? In terms of just kind of how this kind of rolls out and kind of how it applies to you. I totally relate. I totally get it. I'm very much the same way. So I understand the concept. I understand how it came together. So as you're sharing with other people now, and this is obviously like your side hustle, do you would somebody book like a Lightcraft Studio party and you come over and walk them through it? Do you do this at craft shows? Like how does this actually come to light? If I were to, as somebody would once say, double click into it.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So what I described is sort of the very baseline of it, right? So it all starts with this one-on-one conversation, but what that actually can do is we can do it as a small group discussion. So you and some of your girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, you sit in a group, we can do it together as a group. We can do a workshop. I've created a workshop around it because there is some science behind the thinking and the affirmation piece of it, and even the herbs and the smells and things like that. There is science behind that part of it. And then you kind of bring through that magic and that woo on the other end of it. We can do, I've been working on a retreat, like a getaway, like a 1 or 2 night getaway where you could do some of these things during that. I did party favors over the weekend. So I had 2 very different events, and for each one of them I sat and I was really intentional about what was going on at the event and what people were getting out of it. And I wrote that affirmation and I picked those specific ingredients for it, and I gave those out as party favors. So there's lots and lots of different ways that this can come together. I do pop-ups and markets. So I have one of those coming up in Wayne in April. So it can really come to life in a lot of different ways. Now, the most connected one is the one-on-one that I kind of described, but we can do it in a lot of different ways.
Got it. So first of all, for anybody who's listening and not seeing this, you can check out Alaina on Instagram at Lightcraft Studio USA. She has lots of pictures. She has a link to her website, I believe, and any other information you might want, you can get from there. So back to what you're actually doing. So in terms of in a one-on-one, I totally get that. It's basically a more customized experience for whoever you're doing this for or with. In terms of a pop-up or in terms of at a party, do they come, do you do the cards? Do you kind of just sell them solutions? Kind of what does that experience look like?
So everything that you walk away from, every potion that you walk away with is handcrafted and handmade. Nothing is pre-made with the exception of those party favors that I talked about. So if I was at a pop-up and you came to my booth, typically what I would have is the salt poured in a small jar. And from there, we can either do a quick card pull from my deck, or I do have a couple of pre-written affirmations. So if something kind of speaks to you, you can choose that one. I have a list of herbs and essential oils that I have carried with me, and you can choose from that what you'd like to put into your potion. And ultimately, you finish it off with a coconut oil. So the idea is the salt scrubs away sort of the old, and the coconut oil locks in the new. And as you're going through this experience at a pop-up, you put the lid on it, you shake it up kind of to activate it, and then you go home and shower in the morning, shower at night, or you can even use it as a hand scrub, wherever you're just kind of have a moment to yourself and like you're sort of interrogating your thoughts or like, just like making sure that what you're saying to yourself is crafting your light in you. So that's really it.
Got it. So far, I mean, it's only been a few months, but at this point, is it mostly like one-on-ones? Are people booking it for their significant other? Is it kind of like parties? Kind of like, what would you say has been your biggest success so far?
So we have, I've done a couple of pop-up markets, which have been really great to kind of get the name out there. I've done a couple of parties, and I actually have one coming up this weekend. And they've been done different ways. So the one that's coming up is people are booking 30-minute slots, and we do one-on-one sessions, where the prior one was actually more of a group conversation. And so, it just depends on what people think is going to be most meaningful for the attendees. And then prior to that, which was amazing, was a bachelorette party. Nice. So I went out to down the shore. They had this big house and they had the first floor, and it ended up being set up perfectly. So I snuck in and I set it all up. They surprised the bride. And I did a one-on-one session with her. And then I set up the potion bar for everybody to come. I actually did pre-card pulls for each one of them, and they sent me in a word and originally of an intention that they have for the year. And so when I did that card pull for them, it was very, very personal. And then I made suggestions on the herbs and the essential oils that would match that energy for them, and they physically made that potion for themselves and walked away with that. So honestly, it's been a little bit of everything, because I only have been doing it for a couple of months. We've only done like one of each thing, but I feel like they've all been really, really good and learning. And I'll tell you one thing, Jeff, that I didn't mention is gifting. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit there when you were asking me. When I went to that bachelorette party, they asked me, how can I give this to somebody? So from there, I went and I built an Etsy page, and it will go live right after Easter. So if you're looking for something for Mother's Day or a appreciation gift or anything along those lines, or someone bought a new home, started a new job, just anything that you'd want to like gift them a little bit of intention and wish, it's a perfect thing to send them. And it comes in a really cute little box and all this good stuff, and you'll be able to see that in the listing, but that is on its way.
Are you ready to share that web address yet, or is that kind of to come and you'll post about it when it's ready?
I'll probably post when it's ready, because we're still waiting on a few things to get up and running on it, but yeah, we can definitely post that when it's ready.
That's fair. So again, I'm sure she'll post it all over Lightcraft Studio USA on Instagram. So definitely bookmark it, follow it, and stick on that.
You got it.
At this point, I assume you're still more of like a one-woman show. Do you have friends or employees or anything like that? Or is this kind of more of just the Alaina show at this point?
Yeah. When I say we, it does mean me.
Yeah, I say the same thing too with the podcast. I always talk about like, this is what we did. This is the podcast. Yeah. Like I am the podcast. So I totally can relate to that.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yes, exactly.
Where do you see it? Where do you see it going? So, I mean, you're obviously still in the infancy at this point. You're only a few months in. Is this something that you see as being scalable and kind of being much larger? Like, is this something that you kind of see as like a side hustle or a hobby? Kind of like, what is your goal with this?
My first goal is to actually open a physical studio. So everyone asked me like, where's your studio? I was like, right now, my studio, your studio is in you, right? Yes. And this is really what it's about. Like it's crafting the light inside of you and making sure that, again, your voice and your sort of intuition is being listened to and sort of, kept in check a little bit, because it can get a little crazy. So I would love to actually physically open a studio, so where I can actually hold events, or people could come there and hold events. I would love to be able to do that. So that's kind of first and foremost what I would love to do. And I do think that this is scalable in a way that because of all the places that I've lived, I do have contacts in these other areas. Some of them are kind of in this woo space, like towing the line between corporate America and this area, that I think that could be a really easy lift and apply if someone were interested in doing something broader than that too. So, I'm saying, one of the girls I talked to, she's like, you're saying it needs to be like $50,000 in, the first 5 years. Well, what if it's $50 million in 10 years? It can be that. And I was like, of course, yeah, let's do it. So, yes. I'm sort of testing out my MVP right now, if you will, for my innovation days, my minimal viable product. Because my husband's like, what if you do candles? What if you do this? What if you do that? I'm like, I just got to focus on getting this thing landed. If the process works, like that's what I'm honing in and tweaking right now. And so that's why it's really important for people to sort of engage in the way that they have, so I can just feel out what's really going to take off and what we should leave behind and focus on in the future. So that's sort of my future plan for right now, but who knows, that may change.
Nice.
Tomorrow.
I mean, you're only a few months in, and I'll say this. I
Yes.
mean, obviously, the podcast is about 2 years old, less than at this point, and just kind of like the beginning is the toughest part, right? The beginning, creating the engagement, creating people that are interested, and getting word of mouth going. 20 years ago, I did the same thing too. Back in 2005, I want to say it was. I had Seltzer Video Productions, where this was 2005. So this was really in the infancy of a lot of things. Where my main thing was I was helping people convert like VHS to DVD and like stuff like that, or digitizing stuff. Eventually, Walgreens knocked me out of business because it would take me, real time, like hours to convert it. Walgreens to do it for like $10. And I was like, you know what? There's no way I can make a living off this or make any money off of it. So I kind of abandoned that as my side hustle. But again, the podcast, which at this point is more of a hobby for myself, I don't make any money on. It's just kind of like, getting word out and pushing it. So, but it sounds like, you've already done a lot of pop-ups. You've done some parties. You've done some one-on-ones. In only a few months is great. And I think, obviously getting word of mouth out and selling it and just letting people know what this is obviously, I'd imagine, your goal for the first 6 months, right?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the toughest things with the transition for me has been walking a little bit away from the pace of corporate America into being an owner of a business that nobody knows, right? Like I'm coming off of brands and companies that are really well known to Lightcraft Studio that people are like, I don't even know what that is. Like I have no clue. And as I'm going through this sort of transition, when I left corporate America, I just assumed that I'd feel this like huge lift off my shoulders, Jeff. Like that would be like, I can breathe deep every day and it's going to be like sunshine on my face. It's just be amazing, all these things. But I still felt this like really heaviness on me. And I was like, what is going on? And to be quite honest, it was just only really a couple of weeks ago that I realized this. And I put it in, I use Claude. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names of things that I use from AI, but
of course.
Okay, so I've been using Claude.
This way then Claude will start pulling us in, so it kind of works reciprocally here, which is great.
Right. So I was like, Claude, here's my situation. I still feel these ways, and I thought it was going to go away. Like, what is going on? I said, I'm constantly making lists and I'm checking boxes, and I'm mad because my computer's not running as fast and I'm less efficient with my time, and I just feel like the stress, and I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. And it was like, basically, what's happening is you're trying to take this thing that was working over here to apply it to over here, and the pace just doesn't match. Like you're ambitious, you have drive, you have all these things. Those are good habits, but you just have to reframe it to what you're going through now. And I was like, wow. And it was just like immediately I felt so much better that I could name it and say, okay, now I can figure out how I want to bring my culture into this company instead of like carrying through that stress of corporate America that I don't want in Lightcraft Studio. So that's been one of the bigger things over the last couple of weeks that I've been trying to work through. I've got a lot of seeds planted. You heard, right? I'm doing all these things.
Yes.
Now I'm just kind of like trying to take a step back and sort of see where these sprouts are going to come up and where I need to go and pivot and focus and go that way. Because I have a new idea like every day. And I'm like, I got to do it right now. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Just take a breath. It's all right.
I mean, change and transition is always tough. I mean, Beth and I were just talking about this, I think a week or two ago. I got my MBA like 20 years ago because I'm like 1,000 years old at this point. And I remember like once I finished my MBA, like once I finished grad school, for like a month, like every Saturday when I would sit around and just do nothing, I was like, I should be doing something. I really feel like I should be doing something. Because like after 13 years of grade school and 4 years of college and then 4 years of grad school, like you never had downtime on a Saturday. So the fact that I was just sitting down and watching a movie or watching a TV series back in like 2007, I was like, this feels really weird. And then eventually it became the new routine. It just got kind of like more comfortable with it. So you're very early into the stage of your, let's say post-corporate life, if that's what you choose to do or call it. So it takes time. I mean, you're younger than I am, so I can say it, whatever. You said your age earlier. So you've been in corporate America for over 20 years at this point, right? So having the routine and having things and having people above you tell you what you have to do, what you can do and what you can't do, it's tough, right? You're kind of working in a cage, and now there is no cage, right? The cuffs are off and you're creating your own rules at this point, which it takes time because you're looking around waiting for someone to say, no, Alaina, you can't do that. But the only
Right.
person who can say that at this point is probably you.
That's exactly basically what it was saying too. Like, who's putting these deadlines on you that you these arbitrary things that feel like you're racing towards? It's you.
Yes.
And it was great because it gave me like, it was like, here are the top 10 things you're probably saying to yourself, and here are some of the key reframes, how you can make them work for you in this space. And literally that's what Lightcraft Studio is all about.
Yeah, which
It's
I absolutely love.
literally all about that.
I absolutely love that. I'll say this too, like, just we're all wired differently, right? And we all get our drive and our push and whatever else from different places. Like for me, at work or wherever else, people say these are your goals. Like those usually mean nothing to me because I didn't set them, and I never said, hey, I want to strive for these, stretch for these. For me, what usually drives me the most is when I create personal goals. So like last year, my goal was average 10,000 steps a day for the year. And I achieved it by a lot. Like I killed my previous best ever. Things like that are things that like I wake up and I'm like, yes, I want to do this. You know, being told, okay, you have to create 74 reports this month and that's your goal. Like that does nothing for me versus like things that like I think closely and directly impact me personally. And, you know, this is going to be blacklisted from future companies. I don't know. But like, again, setting personal goals and pushing myself, that's what drives me. Even like when I run, right. And I do races and stuff like that. Like seeing other people's times do nothing for me because I recognize that their PR and their benchmarks are not me. My goal is always to beat my previous race time. I have a spreadsheet, a tracker, not surprisingly, where I have a list of every single race I've ever run. And it basically says, okay, my last 5K was making stuff 32 minutes. How do I make it 31:55? Like that's always my goal is how do I make myself a little bit better versus what I've done? Not saying how do I do better than Alaina's done or how Scott's done. Like I am my own benchmark is what I look at, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you say that too, like I knew like coming out of corporate America, my energy was going into all these spaces that I felt like just wasn't paying me back in a way that just, you know, didn't honor like who I was anymore. Like it was just getting further and further away from, you know, my values. And whenever you hear feedback from your bosses and people around you that really don't align to who you know you are, that is what made it really hard. But I found one of my favorite thing that I've been doing with Lightcraft Studio, other than really working on myself as well, right? We're all a work in progress. There are two main things that I just feel so incredibly proud of when I think about how I've set up Lightcraft Studio. Whenever you walk away with a potion, it's in a glass jar, and that glass jar is meant to be refilled. And it can be refilled with me, or you can refill it with something else, but it's meant to be reused. I'm not giving you plastic. I'm not trying to, you know, get more plastic out there. So I'm really conscious of reusing the packaging that's sent to me with the products and the things that I'm buying. So I'm reusing as much of that as possible. So I'm really big on sustainability from that perspective. The second piece of it is I'm really proud of how I'm sourcing my herbs and my essential oils. Whenever I talked about the first witch of Boston, and I don't believe in witches. I believe that people are just intuitive, they're observant, and they have conversations and they connect with people, and that's how they become a witch. I don't know. But this particular witch of Boston, do you know who she went to? She was an apothecary. She was a healer. She went to the natives, the Native Americans in the land, and she got her knowledge from them about the land and what she should be using, the herbs and things like that for healing. And so as I'm sourcing my herbs and essential oils, I've been trying to be very intentional about who I'm sourcing them from. I found a woman in New Orleans. She's a Native American, and she's got a ton of different herbs and essential oils. So it makes me so happy to be able to source my ingredients from her. And that's something I get to do without having to go to somebody else, my boss or whomever, and say, and it's going to cost a little bit more, but it is worth it because it's quality and it's from the earth. And I love the energy that it has. So those are two things that I'm really, really proud of when I'm putting this business together. They're really important to me in corporate America. And now I can do that without question where I'm at right now. And I absolutely love it.
So you don't have to RFP to 3 different companies and go through procurements and then find out that, you know.
No, but I tell you what, though, my history and my background in strategy and innovation it's just paying off in dividends. Like I've done my pricing, like all this stuff, like that was in my corporate role. So easy, lift and apply here. And I don't have a lot of doubts about what I'm doing because I've done it before. So really now it's all about the marketing piece, which I always was adjacent to marketing. So that's like the part, and it's a lot of social media, which is kind of the opposite of what I want Lightcraft Studio to be. But I know in order to get out there, that's what I have to do. And I've been trying to be intentional about the things that I put out there too in the messages. So
of course, I absolutely love all that. So I'll say the same thing too. So, I mean, my 26 years in corporate America, like I run my personal finances like a company.
Right.
I think corporate America does a lot of things, let's say, wrong or questionable. But what they do right, I think, is the way they look at the P&L and the way they look at it and see how do we maximize profit. So like for myself and my wife and my family, my goal is always like, how do we grow our net assets? Like how do we retire as soon as possible, all that kind of stuff. So like I look at it the same way too. I look at my, top line, how much money is coming in. I look at how much money we have. I look at our debt or liabilities and kind of see like how I can model that out and kind of like predict it going forward. So yeah, as many things as I've said in the past, and other people have said too, that corporate America is a weird place. I try to learn as much as I can and apply to my personal life things that I think are productive and helpful.
Absolutely.
And, that's the way that they provide their numbers to Wall Street. And like, if I were to provide my numbers to Wall Street, I do the same kind of a thing just because I think that's one thing they do right. So
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Is your sales meeting for your company going to be in Parsippany, New Jersey this year, or are you guys going a little more exotic?
It's probably going to be in Missouri.
There you go.
We'll probably be in Missouri, but we'll see. Maybe next time we'll go somewhere more exotic. Oh, that's funny.
So I know you're only a few months into it. Like, would you look at it and say, like, are you making a profit yet? Are you kind of like investing and kind of the word out? Like, are you deeply in the red? Like, how would you describe it if you would mind sharing?
Yeah. So running for 1 month, actually being out in the marketplace and being in a position to sell things, which was February.
Yes.
When I looked at the end of the month, I was slightly in the black, which
that's great.
Was amazing.
I mean, 1 month in, that's fantastic. I mean, don't we hear like most companies takes years to kind of make anything, and it's small scale, and I get that, but at least there's some reason for optimism, right? And the fact that it's not just kind of like it's not a money pit at this point. It's basically you're doing things, you're having some fun. You're trying to get a proof of concept, which at this point is fantastic getting this far and not losing money, let's say at this point.
Yeah. And I haven't done any like marketing investment yet, which I will be doing probably in the upcoming few months, which probably will, put a little bit of dent in that, but I'm okay with that. Like, like we said, like, especially again, being in innovation and knowing that it takes a lot for new things to lift, even when you have a brand name behind you. Right. I'm okay with that. And I do want to make sure that I give it what it needs to at least succeed. So I can, if I have to walk away, I know that I did what I could to do it. So yep. So good signals for sure, with a couple of things still in the pipeline in the future. And I'm working on, what's next in those next few months. So it's all good.
Nice. And I know obviously right now you're regional or local to New Jersey. You also said obviously you have ties to Missouri. But with your upcoming Etsy store and all that kind of stuff, you could probably ship, I would assume, nationwide or even beyond that, right? Like, is that kind of your aspiration?
Yeah, definitely within the US for sure. I haven't thought about international yet, but heck, I mean, look, I don't turn much down right now unless it's like fully like not aligned at all. Because again, like I'm just trying to see what's gonna lift and what's gonna go. And I'm happy to, pivot where I need to, and, I'll talk to anybody about anything.
Of course. Awesome. Cool. So we are running a little late in time at this point. So I want to give you the opportunity. If there's anything you want to plug, anything you want to repeat from earlier, anything else that you want to share that maybe we haven't gotten to yet, obviously, the floor is yours.
Jeff, I actually have some questions for you.
Oh, please. Yes, absolutely. This hasn't happened really since my 1-year anniversary episode where I had Daniel Ireland host the show, and he hosted me as the guest. So that was a fun hour where I was answering questions the entire time. And they were all very creative and very well researched, as Daniel only would do. So Alaina, we've known each other for almost a decade. Ask me whatever you'd like, please.
Okay. And hopefully I haven't listened to every single one of the episodes on the podcast, so hopefully no one's asked you this yet.
Sure, absolutely.
But your name of your podcast is Everybody Has a Story.
That's correct. Because I believe everybody has a story. Yes.
So I like to tell people it's called Everyone Has a Story.
Ooh, that's
So
not me.
I know, right? Like that's somebody
I think
else.
I think somebody else already has that. Is why I chose this one when I first came up with
Well,
it.
that's what I wanted you to talk to us about. How did
Yes.
you make a choice between a body and a one? Everybody or everyone?
Gotcha. So it's a great question. So there's a couple of parts I'll say to it. So first of all, I think everyone has a story might already exist. So I think if you go on like Apple
Mm,
Podcasts, you might see it. So from a
got
branding
it.
perspective, now granted, I added the with Jeff Seltzer, but I also wanted to create as little confusion as possible, right? Like I didn't want what there be. Everyone has a story.
I say the wrong thing all the
No,
time.
it's okay. It's fair. I mean, what I tell people is just go on the web and just do a search for Jeff Seltzer podcast, and this pops up. So as far as I'm aware, I'm the only Jeff Seltzer that has a podcast. If you do like a Google search for like most notable Jeff Seltzers, I think I'm number 2 or number 3.
Mm-hmm.
There is a super successful like financial guru on Wall Street or a hedge fund or something named Jeff Seltzer. I think
Oh,
he's number 1. I
in
did
good
try to get him.
company.
Yes, I did. So a number of years ago when I got laid off, when I was between Pfizer and Pfizer, I was bored one day. Went on LinkedIn and I connected to everybody with the last name Seltzer that I could find. I was just bored one day, something I did. And I was especially interested because I found a Jeff Seltzer. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I think the guy's about 20 years older than I am. So fast forward to last year, and I was looking for guests. I was like, what should I do? So I've told the story before. I'm not sure if I've told you this before. In high school, there was another Jeff Seltzer who was the same age as me, but lived like 2 towns over. This was like sophomore, junior year of high school. I was class of 95. He went to Old Bridge, I think Madison Central. I went to Edison High School. He was like all state track. Like this guy was like legit. Like he was like a stud. So the story that I love to share is the fact that junior year of high school, I ran cross country. I showed up the first day to sign up, and the coach, when he saw me write my name down, like he was in love. Like he was like, wow, like this guy is going to take us to championships. I'm looking at it, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, don't look at me so weirdly. This is just really, really odd. And like, I didn't recognize it at the time, but eventually, like first day of practice, we all start running. I come in dead last. Like, I'm not going to have the bravado and say I'm a fantastic athlete. Like I run, I do things, but I'm not great. And the look on this guy's face when it went from like super happy to OF, like this is not the Jeff Seltzer I thought it was. For me, like, I don't know that I necessarily recognize it all at the time. And maybe, 35, 40 years later, I've exaggerated a little bit. But like, I think he very quickly realized that I was not the Jeff Seltzer that he thought that I was.
Oh.
Yeah. So he didn't make the top list of notable Jeff Seltzers, as he, I told us on the story on the podcast in the past also, eventually changed his name to Yaakov Ephraim Seltzer. He's super Orthodox or Hasidic. Changed his name. So I like to say that I won the game of Jeff Seltzer Chicken.
Totally.
That I got to keep the name, and he changed it, right? So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So
Well
long story
done.
short, thank you. I'm the number 2. So last year, as I was about to say, or I cut myself off, I guess. I sent a message to the other Jeff Seltzer, the super rich one, and I was like, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? I think it's an interesting story to have 2 Jeff Seltzers, or have a Jeff Seltzer as the guest on the Jeff Seltzer podcast. And he was like, hey, here's my cell phone number. Why don't you text me? I'm like, great, this sounds awesome. I could set something up. So then I texted him, and he was like asking me questions about like my background and whatever else like that. But then it became very apparent quickly that he had no interest in me on a podcast. I was like, okay, well, thanks for playing. Was what it was. But then fast forward 6 months later, and I texted oftentimes I'll text things from like my work phone to my personal phone, like I have different numbers or whatever.
Yeah.
Now the dumb thing on my part was I kept the other Jeff Seltzer in my contacts. So I texted him something that I meant to text myself. And he just responded back with, no, I still don't want to be in your podcast. I'm like, sorry, dude, that was not the intention. It was a mistake. And I immediately deleted his contacts. It doesn't happen again. So that was the story of multiple Jeff Seltzers. But yeah.
That's funny.
Yep. So that was that. So everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer.
Got it.
Again,
Just
basically,
because.
yeah, my thought is, A, I mean, from a branding perspective, the name is good. And B, I do believe everyone has a story, right? Like, there were many people that I've talked to on the podcast that are like, nah, I'd be boring to be a bad podcast. But like I found that I'm a decent like host in terms of like I can get people to talk and ask questions. I refer to myself as an introvert. Stephanie says I'm an extrovert. Definitely not an extrovert. So I'm not really sure what I am. I think I'm a bit of a hybrid in terms of both. But somehow over the years, I've just kind of figured out a way to ask questions and people to talk for like hours at a time,
Well, Jeff, people share at the same level that you share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
you're very open to share your story. So therefore people feel comfortable to share theirs with you. And I think you're spot on, though. Everybody does have a story, whether that story is like someone else's. Their experience is their own. And I feel like I learned that a lot when I was pregnant, and, you know, some of the things that I had to deal with post-pregnancy. Everyone's like, oh, so-and-so has that problem. And I'm like, no, but it's mine. And I don't want you to diminish my story. Like, this is my story and my experience. So I love that you have a platform for people to come on and tell their story. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, I've listened to a few of them, and I always get a nice little chuckle, Jeff, because you just do bring it out in yourself and others. And I think it's fabulous. So I'm going to keep us going on time because we're going to run short. I have a lot of questions here for you.
Yeah, of course.
But instead of the questions, what I'll do is I'm just going to tell you when I think of you.
Yes.
These are the two main things that I think of.
Okay.
I think that if anybody works at the company that you're at, they should absolutely ask you how to take advantage of the company perks and the stock investments like you opened with. Like, I'm not surprised that you're talking about that kind of stuff. Like you said, you have an annual family PowerPoint.
Yes.
I learned that immediately as soon as I met you. And so I feel like anybody that knows you, that works with you, if they have any questions, or even if they don't work with you, you can probably direct them where to find the benefits and the things to take advantage of from their company in a positive way, like the perks that we have that nobody uses because we don't know how to find them.
Right.
So I always think about you when that. And the other thing is, okay, so you are responsible for my Apple Music membership.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay, tell me.
So good or bad, I don't.
Yes.
It is good. It is good. So when we met, I guess, I mean, I hadn't bought the Apple Music membership. I was just buying my songs individual for $1.29 every download. And you're like,
right.
Insane. Just pay this. And I was like, well, what if I need to leave Apple? You're like, then don't. Like, it's fine. And I was like, okay. So I literally bought it like that day, and I've had it ever since, which was probably around 2017. I don't know.
That's crazy.
And I think I get a really good deal. I download a lot of music. My daughter loves music. We dance all the time.
Nice.
And so, but you are, every time I think about my iTunes and my Apple Music membership, I think of you because you're the one who made me do it. And I think it was great. So that just, my last question for you then is, what is your favorite song right now?
Favorite song right now. So let me take a look. So what I'll say is this. I mean, there's a lot of songs, like, I don't know, like I'm probably special. I'll be the first to say that. There were like, when I find a song that I like, and my family will agree to this as well, like I'll put it on repeat and listen to it over and over again.
Same.
Like people refer to it as stimming. I don't know. You call it whatever you want.
But wait, stimming?
Yeah.
Oh, I never heard of that.
Dig into it. You don't go too deep though.
All right.
So what I'll say is this has been a song that's been stuck with me for a couple of years now. Chapel Roan, Good Luck Babe. That's a song that I can listen to over and over again, and I absolutely love. What I'll say is the alternate version that I listen to sometimes is I found a mashup of Good Luck Babe and Apple by Charlie XCX. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Like they mix together so well. So go on YouTube and look that up, whatever. So that's probably the top. Like if I look at my top songs from the last couple of years, that's probably it.
Okay.
But what I will say to your point though is, like for me, I utilize music as therapy. So whatever I'm going through, if I'm experiencing something, I'll create a playlist for it. So I'll probably create about like 30 or so playlists a year. And it helps me because depending upon the mood, I can kind of put songs in that kind of like, talk to my mood. But additionally, like when I look back in time, like I name each playlist basically around like what I'm feeling. So for example, I have a playlist called 25 Frustrated. So this was like a time in my life when like something was happening or I was experiencing something weird. And I'm like, okay, Jeff was frustrated at that point. And kind of going through it.
Can you share? I want to hear this playlist, not that one specifically, but I want to hear some of your playlists.
Absolutely. We can talk offline about that. But so there's that. Every year, also, what I do is I create a birthday playlist for myself. So, for example, last year I turned 48. So what I do is I have a playlist from last year called 48 for 48. So it's a playlist that has 48 songs that like are my favorite songs at the time or kind of throwback songs or whatever. And I just love it. Like for me, and then I save all the playlists. So then I have 47, 46, 45. So I can kind of look back and see, I mean, I'm a data geek, so this is what I do, how I've changed over the years and like what my top songs were versus are. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's very cool. I love that. I like that a lot. I know I've got a lot of playlists too. And I wish I would have put the date, the month and the year on it to know like when it was specifically, because my playlists are songs from any time really. But yeah, that's really cool. I love that you do that. That's really
and
cool.
to that point, I don't put the date, but I do start every playlist with the year. So like all my playlists here are 26 and then a title, and usually it's sorted out by when it was created, so I can kind of figure out around what time it was. Plus, when I think about a point in my life, I'm like, all right, I was frustrated in month X because this happened, either personally or professionally.
Yeah, that's really cool. We're listening to Zoo by Shakira on repeat.
Is that from the new Zootopia 2 movie?
Yes. And
great movie, by the way. Yes.
It is really good. And if you like that song and you like Shakira, Waka Waka, it sounds very similar. So I'm like, threw that on the playlist for my daughter too. But anyway, those are my questions for you. I had a couple more, but I know we're short on time, so we can, we'll just take it offline. Is that what we say in the corporate America? We'll take it offline.
I think we do. I mean, we also often say like, we can build a plane in the air, which I think is the dumbest analogy ever.
That's a good one.
I mean, I would never fly. I'm an awful flyer. I get motion sick to begin with. So the thought of building a plane in the air, I just throw up thinking about that. So I'm not sure anybody wants to really live that with me.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Cool. So with that said, again, Alaina, thank you for joining. Anything else you want to plug in terms of websites or in terms of social media and stuff like that?
You can find pretty much everything on the Instagram, Lightcraft Studio USA. And like I said, you'll start to see the Etsy come up if you're interested in gifting, because I know that your listeners are all over the place, which is amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, everything. Instagram is the best place to find me.
Very cool. Very cool. And to Alaina's point, we've been streamed in at least 30 different countries at this point, which is crazy. We hit our 6th continent. We're waiting for Antarctica. So if anybody out there is traveling to Antarctica, please listen to at least 1 minute, 1 second of any episode up in Antarctica, and I'll have world domination, which is all we're all going for at this point, I guess. Yeah. With that said, thank you all for joining as always. As a reminder, on Instagram, you can find the show on Everybody Has a Story Pod. On YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can email the show directly at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. We're available on all podcast platforms, video on Spotify and YouTube, audio everywhere else, including Spotify and YouTube. Have an amazing day. We'll be back in about a week or two. I believe Marcus and Daniel are joining for a couple of special conversations. So with that said, follow us on Instagram, take a look, reach out if you want to be a guest, and have an amazing time. Take care.
Thanks, Jeff.
Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. 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 Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer.